welcome to Dynamite Delight. Now, I want to say this very clearly right now at this point. I am not going to talk about what Tony Khan said at the very beginning of the show. I'm going to do a Gump report on it right now because I was thinking about it. I just messed up twice trying to think how am I going to say this at the end of the review, and I'm going like, why? Why don't I just say it in a Gump report? So I'm not going to talk about what Tony... I really want to talk about it, but I'm leaving this as a Rampage leading into Revolution. That's it. What Tony Khan said is going to be on a Gump report that either I'm going to release maybe this week or next week. I don't know yet. I want to see what everybody else is going to say. I want to do that, but I do want to have my own thoughts. So, well, there you go. Let's move on to the very opening of the show, which was Bryan Danielson versus a Christopher Daniels. Now, those two were the main event of ROH. Now now you're going to be saying, oh, I thought you didn't want to talk about what Tony Khan said. This is about a match, guys. We're talking about a match, baby. We're talking about a match. We're not talking about what Tony Khan said. We're talking about a match. Christopher Daniels and Bryan Danielson were the main event on the very first pay-per-view of ROH. They didn't generally talk, well, not talk, but basically, they've never had a second shot at each other at ROH or tried to finish whatever they're doing. So supposedly, a near 50-year-old Bryan Danielson was dealing with a 51-year-old, well, because I think he's nearly 51. He's a little older than me by a couple of months, easily, Christopher Daniels. We're both born in the same year, but he's several months older than I am. So, was this a good match? It was good. It wasn't a bad one, and I did see Chris Van Vliet's video talking with him about this injury. Now, understand, I want to say this clearly. If anyone hasn't noticed what happened with Christopher Daniels 7-8 months ago, he got kicked in the face or punched in the face just right to burst a blood vessel in the eye. He has been told by the doctors it is not life-threatening and it is cosmetic. In other words, he can still see through it. It's just that whatever happened to the blood vessel in his eye that somewhat leaked, it is not life-threatening. He will not die from it, and he will not lose his sight from it. And he was told that eventually it will clear up on its own. He just doesn't know when. It could take 2 years before it finally goes away, or 5 years, or it can go away tomorrow. It just depends when it decides to break up and just stop. So he's fine. But looking at it, it makes you think of, which movie was it that had the, I forgot the name of the movie that just shows the eyes just turning the blood red when he was absorbing, I think it was Blade, the original Blade. If you see at the end of the movie that has Triple H in it, Mr. Levesque himself, you see the super vampire become great and has all the blood in his eyes. That's what Christopher Daniels looks like. It was a good match. Then we get basically a stomping at the end when Bryan Danielson said, you know what, 20 years ago we had a match and we never got a chance to finish, never had a chance to really do much with it. We shook hands at that match. We're shaking hands now, at least until I decide, he doesn't say this, that this is not ROH, this is AEW. He stomps his brains in, and then he calls out Moxley, saying that he's going to stomp his head in too. Moxley comes out, makes a very good promo. Both of them did good promos, by my humble perspective. Their promos were good. They weren't the most spectacular thing, but they were good, making it very clear each of them want to prove they are superior to the other. Now the question's going to be, when this is over, will they join forces? Because at this moment, they're just going to have the match where Moxley wants to prove that he can beat Bryan Danielson because he has progressed as a performer in the ring, as a true pro wrestler. And Bryan Danielson, not Bryan Danielson, Moxley. I don't know why I said Bryan Danielson. I guess the reason I botched was, simply put, both of them want to prove their superiority to the other before they decide if they are going to join forces. I'm just saying. The Casino Battle Royal for the tag team position with the Jurassic Express, who really don't 100% feel legitimate because of what happened to Lucha Brothers, to the Red Dragons, who do feel legitimate, and the one that's supposed to be in this Battle Royal. Now, Dante Martin's brother, what is it? What was his name? Denzel, I believe. Wait a minute. What was his name? Darian. I think his name is Darian or Darian. He finally comes back and Top Flight has finally joined forces again. They got a standing ovation to a certain point. Everyone noticed him. The Martin brothers were together, and everyone was happy to see Dante Martin's brother back. They really wanted to see Darius. I believe that's his name. Darius. He lasted all the way to the end with the Bucks, FTR, and who's the other one? There was one more. I can't remember who. But it was the Bucks. Then FTR finally got eliminated, and it was just the Bucks and Darian by himself. They wanted to put him over to make sure that he is remembered, that he had a moment, which he did. Yes, he got his ass whooped, but still he got his moment. Now, Red Dragons came out. They seemed to do a bit of a distraction to a couple of times to a couple of people in tag teams, and the Bucks now have their moment. Of course, I could say something about Jurassic Express, but it's not necessary. We knew they were going to come out. It just had to happen. Now, what do we got here? We had several segments. One segment that was interesting but didn't really spark my interest was Jade Cargill dealing with Tai Chi. Now, they're going to have their match. It's going to happen at Revolution. Guys, I'm not very interested in this. Because, really, Tai Chi doesn't feel like the wisest person to stick in front of Jade Cargill at a pay-per-view. Not that I think Tai is bad. I'm making this very clear. I don't think Tai is a bad wrestler, but she just doesn't have either the heat or the pops that not a main event, but for the TBS title really deserves with Jade Cargill, who herself is still very young in the business. You got a Tai Chi who's only been in the business for a couple of years, easily like 4 or 5 years, I'm sure of. And then you got Jade, who's barely been in the business a year. It feels like she needs to be replaced with someone who's been in there longer to make it mean something in a pay-per-view. Not that she can't make the match mean something. It feels like she shouldn't be there. She just shouldn't. And I'm not taking anything what she did last year, working with Anna Jade, working with Bunny, working with a Penelope Forbes. They were busting her ass, trying to make a feud interesting when there should have been more women working in that damn division instead of just those 4 women who seem to be carrying the damn thing. And all 4 of them, other than Bunny, who has the most experience there, used to be Cherry Bomb. She has the most experience, but still, she couldn't make it mean a lot back then. Not that she didn't try. They needed more star power, like a Taya Valkyrie. This is why I kind of wish either an Athena or a Taya Valkyrie would be for Jade Cargill. Honestly, I'm just saying. They could have brought back Athena. Athena could have shown up, and yes, she had the job, but at least Athena would get a huge ass pop. She would have made better sense than Tai. I'm just saying. Now, we had a match with Britt Baker. We had a match with Jimmy Hager, as well as Rosa and Mercedes Martinez. This was trying to build up into the match at Revolution, which I really feel that wasn't necessary. No. Mercedes Martinez, yes. She could have had her match, and it could have been against Rebel, just to show that she's coming after Hater. And eventually she'll be going after Britt Baker, no matter who wins the title, which is Thunder Rosa or a Britt Baker. It didn't make a difference. Having her go up against Rebel, who had a nice ass. that tight pants make her look. But the point is, I'd rather see that match here, and then in Revolution you see Hater, and she goes through her, and then no matter if she wins or not, you could see her going after Britt Baker next. That would make sense. Of course, they got to build into it before she actually has a shot. I'm just saying. In the end, the faces win, which I don't think it was necessary. Yes, seeing that Hayter had the job for a Thunder Rosa is fine, no problem. But it doesn't mean it needed to be done. It just didn't need it, baby. It didn't. Let's move on. Warlow versus what was the guy name? I forgot. He was working with Dolph Ziggler's actual brother. I forgot his name. No, what is the guy's name? Bozzoni? I believe that's his name. Bozzoni or Bozzani or whatever. He jobs. He gets 3 power bombs and he's done. And you see that Sean Spears did not like it. He has told him, stop. Don't do this. Stop it. Do not do this. But he did. So after it was over, he goes into the ring and he's about to nail the guy with a chair. And you see Warlow stop it. You can see in my face. He stops him. Now, of course, what happened later in the night and leads into this little segment where you see it in my face again, where Warlow is facing MJF because of what happened with Punk, which I'll get to in a minute. It's obvious they are teasing Warlow going to do something. It's obvious. Warlow's made his choice. Unless it's fake, he is making his choice to do what the hell he wants. And pretty much MJF smacks the taste out of his mouth, saying basically, you're not working for AEW, working for me. You want me to fire you and you don't got no more money, no more food on the table, no more home? Do not mistake my kindness for weakness. Walks off. Warlow goes like this. You can see a little bit of blood in his mouth. Good smack. Not bad. I think it looked like a little bit of blood in his mouth. But the point of the entire matter is that Warlow is, at this point, still being built to turn on the Pinnacle and MJF. I just don't see it happening now. Maybe in about a month or so more. Because I do see at the pay-per-view that they will do something which will question Warlow heavily. But I don't believe he'll break away until well after the pay-per-view. I'm just saying. Now, let's go to CM Punk. Let's go to MJF. Now, CM Punk comes out, and he pretty much says, I sometimes question myself. I splash water in my face, and I say, am I the bad guy? And I'm thinking, okay, what is this going to be? They're going to try and stop the match? Exactly. He calls in an MJF, saying simply, look, the kid that you were. He doesn't say this is what I'm perceiving. The kid you were, it didn't need to go down that route. You didn't need to go down that route. You should not be evil. He made it very clear the things that he done. And he talks about what happened in WWE. That's what he did in WWE. Everything that he mentioned was in WWE. He did that mess. He did it. And he made it very clear that this does not need to be the path for himself. And he made it very clear at the very end of that segment that he spoke to about MJF. He made it clear, look, as I said earlier, I splashed water in my face and asked myself, am I the bad guy? And he said, look, I'm trying not to be. I'm trying. He wanted to shake his hand. MJF grabs him and hugs him. And he hugs him after a bit of a pause, like, is this guy trying to play with me? Because he does mention that in the beginning of his segment before MJF comes out. No music, just him coming out. He does not hold him immediately. He does finally hug him. He gives him a kiss. And he said, you don't have to do this. He lets him go. And then he gets a freaking nut shot. He gets beat up. He gets the diamond ring to the head. And a nasty knot where you could see a dent in his head. And he is pouring blood. You see it in my face. And I believe this might be the shot. If I got it, it's going to be my thumbnail. Oh, actually, no. If I do that, I think they may just say that that's too gory. So I may not use it. But I will put in this video. It shows as the title. I believe I'm using the title. He fell for it. He made it very clear, MJF, you fell for it. I'm a snake. I am a snake. And when the pay-per-view comes, you're going to learn that I'm also the devil, the true one. You're done. Pretty much. Along with getting almost hung by Shawn Spears. Then you get Darby Allin coming out. You get Sammy as well as Sting coming out to his rescue. It was good. It was well done. I have no problem with it. Now, let's see. What else do we have here that we can talk about? I'm not going to talk about what happened with Chris Jericho, and talking about Eddie. We don't need to talk about that because all that needs to be said is already done. This is about Sammy Guevara hasn't said he's against Chris, but it seems now Santana and Ortiz are back on board with Chris, and they said, "Are we good?" And fist bump, no problem. And he said, "I'll always be with you guys, always be in your corner." So at this moment, they look like they're in the corner with a Chris because of what he said. Now the question is going to be, where will this go? Will this lead to an Eddie Kingston heavily pushed run going to the TNT title picture or not? That's just me. That's what I'm wondering. Finally, the final match, which is a trios match. You got Red Dragon and Cole versus the Reynolds and Silver with the king of AEW, the current champion of Adam Page. Like what happened with Thunder Rosa, I wish they hadn't done this match. It's not always necessary to put the champion in a situation where he has to be somewhere that could be jobbing or not. I don't agree with it. Even though Cole got the win over Reynolds, no problem. I just wish they wouldn't do this. You could have had Cole on the outside and a Adam Page by ringside. The same thing. They could have still seen the match, and they did not have to be in the ring together other than fighting one another. I believe that would have been a much more important thing to see. That they're not willing to put their champion or the challenger in a situation like everyone else, like Impact Wrestling, like MLW, like WWE, like NWA. They could have done something a bit different. They didn't need to do it. They could have had them at ringside like managers and just let them be there. And maybe one messes with it, like Cole tries to mess up the match. You see Paige chasing him around. In the end, they could have had a fight at the end, but neither one of them got the edge, and you wonder who's who. That's what I was hoping for. I didn't get it. I got this. And you see Hangman Page taped up with duct tape, getting his ass whooped, and then getting the title thrown on his shoulder after the entire thing's all over. It wasn't a bad thing, but it doesn't mean it had to happen. It was not necessarily needed to happen. I just believed it wasn't. Not that the ending couldn't have still happened if Paige and Cole were at ringside and the match was over. You could have still done the same ending where Paige is tied up with duct tape. Reynolds get Panama Sunrise, and you get the sweeping leg and kick to the head to a John Silver. You could have still done it. Just didn't need to put the two most important people who's going to be closing your damn pay-per-view in a match on a Dynamite. I just don't agree with it. Now, was this a bad show? Hell no, it wasn't. I don't think it was a bad show. I think it was actually a pretty damn good show. So, you could watch it. Doesn't mean you're going to like absolutely everything. Maybe you'll feel like me that the ending didn't need to happen for the trios match, and Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker didn't need a match either. It could have been something entirely different. But this is just me, and I hope you enjoyed this Rampage. I'm putting out Rampage because I'm thinking about Rampage. This Dynamite Delight. Have a good day. Have a good night. Peace.